This is the story of how I completely changed out my community's homeowners association board and foreclosed on one of their houses after they disrespected me. Too long. Didn't read. I got fined for ridiculous things by my homeowners association and got ticked off and decided to get on to the board. I then spent a year removing all members of the board I joined and replacing them with people that were pro-small homeowners association. I have since helped reduce policies and tried to make the community better for everyone. Backstory. A few years ago, I bought my first house in a medium-size, 500-1000 homes, neighborhood in a southern state. It had an homeowners association, but I actually picked the neighborhood because they had the lowest homeowners association dues in the city, the fewest rules, and the house was by far the nicest one I could afford in my budget. After a few weeks, I get a violation notice from the homeowners association telling me that I had 2 violations needing correction. 1. My lawn was not green enough. My trash cans were too close to my driveway. I was thoroughly confused about number 1 as it was February, in the middle of winter, so of course my lawn was dead, like pretty much everyone else's. So I had assumed that either this was a mistake or an existing offense from the previous owner. As for the trash cans, I kept them on the side of my house, and I think when the homeowners association came by, my trash can stuck out past the sidewall /1 foot, so how dare I? I shrugged them off and continued on. Come March, I got another notice, this time fining me for both violations. Each one cost me $100 and they wanted the money in 2 weeks. Was pissed. This has made no sense and I was not about to let them just try and get money for bullshit violations. So, I called the management company that worked with the board to get them appealed. The lady told me that I needed to appeal directly to the board, and that I could do so in the next annual meeting in a few days. So I of course showed up to the meeting. Prior to it starting, I met with a few homeowners and learned that they were all there for similar bullshit violations, and were pissed off too. I then talked with one of the members of the board about the fine appeals process. He was older guy in his 70s with short gray hair and a very worn and angry face. He asked what I was getting fined for, and when I told him, he just looked at me and said, "And you should get fined for that. Young people like you not taking care of their homes is the whole reason I got on this board. Learn to be a better property owner." This dude was the vice president of a volunteer board telling me that I did not know how to take care of my house. What a sad life. The meeting then started and the moderator mentioned that since this was an annual meeting, we would be voting on 3/5 board members. They had some applicants to the board, and we could also nominate someone today. That's when I had the idea of how I could get my revenge. When the election part of the meeting came, I nominated myself, gave some bullshit speech about homeowners associations are not here to make money and that I wanted to serve my community. I won in a landslide, and you could see the board members getting annoyed because they had scowled during my speech. After the meeting, I appealed my violations in a very elegant way, and they agreed to waive my trash can violation. As for the grass one, apparently since I had weeds growing in my yard, like tiny patch in the corner, they were still fining me because the weeds were turning yellow after I sprayed them. I was dumbfounded how they could get away with this, but they used a technicality in the bylaws that I had signed, so I ended up losing $100. Revenge. I will be honest, I had not expected this to work. After joining the board of 5, including myself, I was appointed secretary and had to help maintain meeting notes and review records. They specifically told me that I was not allowed to propose new policies, but I could vote on new ones proposed by the vice president or president, which I later learned was actually a violation of their own rules. I voted every new rule down as long as I was in that position. I decided that my best course of action was to listen to how the others operated, and look for an opening to get each of them off the board. The first opening came when the president, who literally looked like the most Karen woman ever, mentioned that she had wanted to fine for flowers that were not neutral color. Basically, if a homeowner wanted to add something like turquoise flowers, we would fine them. She apparently had a neighbor that had flowers that she didn't like, and she wanted to use the board to stop them. It was pretty insane. I then started my revenge on her. I started a message thread, on Slack since that's how we communicated, with the other board members and asked what they had thought about her policy and reasoning. After far too much deliberation, 2 of them honestly thought that this was okay. We agreed that the policy went too far. I then made a long post in the main channel telling her that her actions were not only wrong, but that she should be excused from the board. When she inevitably flipped out, I called a board meeting in the following week, and the other 4 board members voted her off for targeting a community member for personal gain. She gave a sob story about how the board was her life and that the neighborhood was like her child, but I didn't care. That was one down. I / convinced one of my good neighbor friends to join a little later on to take her spot. The next members I targeted were the treasurer and director, as I wanted to save the vice president for last. They were actually pretty easy to get off the board because they were very easily swayed by public opinion. So, I made a fake account on Nextdoor and waited until spring, when most of the violations go out. When the letters went out, I looked for angry posts on Nextdoor. I then would comment on each one, giving them the first names of the 2 board members as the culprits and told them to come to the next homeowners association meeting to appeal. It worked far better than I had expected. During the next meeting, over 50 people showed up and called out those by name. It was glorious. During the open session, community members grilled those 2 for their poor policies, even though they did not make most of them. The vice president, now president after the other one resigned, tried to defend them, but ultimately failed. The 2 members were so distraught after the meeting, and I told them that maybe they should resign, and they both did. That was 2 more down, both of which were replaced by a couple who came to the same meeting and wanted to get rid of these rules. Finally, the board had been flipped to 4 out of 5 people wanting to get rid of all these dumb rules. The president, however, was still same old angry, hateful man. He tried to add more rules to increase violation revenue, and we voted him down every time. He started to get annoyed, but stayed steadfast to the board. I tried a lot of tactics to get him to leave, and not much swayed him. A few months went by and we started with a new management company. They had a much better style of property management and a website for looking through our community's records as well as automated reports. When we got our first fines report, I hit pay dirt. The president's house appeared, and he owed around $10,000. Apparently he had open violations that he had never paid, and the other management company hid it from the board for him, since he had been on the board for close to 7 years. So I looked into remedies. Since his fines were over $3,000, our bylaws stated that a majority vote of the board could start an homeowners association foreclosure on the home, which I still think is insane that homeowners associations can do that. So, I got all the docs together and double-checked with the new management company that the fines were correct, which they confirmed. I called an emergency board session, presented the information, and 4/5 of us voted to start the foreclosure process. The president got angry, cursed, and left the meeting early. We were informed a few days later that the president had resigned, paid his fine, and put his house up for sale. While I am sad we couldn't force a foreclosure, at least he was off the board. I am currently president to this day, and I have reduced the fining policy to be a maximum of $400, and homeowners can appeal any time that they wish digitally. In addition, I have banned any grass fines until May, and trash can violations have been super relaxed. Morale of the story: never fine me $200, call me a stupid young kid, and expect to not lose your house. Comment by user: this is awesome. I live in an homeowners association that has gotten progressively worse. Trash cans are their favorite things to nitpick about while they completely ignore safety violations. A few years ago, they tried to fine me during an active police investigation for damage to my property that was caused by vandalism. Meanwhile, I tried to get a board member to help me with a clear violation of the homeowners association bylaws that was literally keeping some of us from being able to access our own properties much of the day. That board member stupidly emailed me back and admitted that the homeowners association won't do anything because they really don't have the time or money to take any of us to court. I ended up going to the city code compliance office and got the issue dealt with on my own, but I've been sitting on that email ever since, just waiting for the right moment to deploy it. Reply by original poster: excellent idea in going to compliance. Not many people that homeowners associations are generally beholden to city compliance/code enforcement. If you can get code on your side, your homeowners association is powerless. As for the email, use it when election time comes around if you want to get them off the board. Community members love proof that their board members are idiots, lol. Comment by user: Many homeowners association management companies get paid extra for each violation letter they send. This incentives them to issue violations for every stupid, petty possible violation. If the person appeals and gets it cleared, the management company gets paid anyway. If your homeowners association is batshit crazy about rules, ask a board member if they're getting paid for it. I worked for a large multi-state homeowners association management company. Reply by original poster. This is actually why I just switched to a new one. I looked for company that specifically banned that practice in their rules. That was actually pretty hard to find. Comment by user. She gave a sob story about how the board was her life. Wow. She went straight to "my life is too pathetic for you to do this to me, huh?" Reply by original poster. She was indeed a housewife with nothing to do. I never met her husband, but she mysteriously moved out a few months later. Comment by user. My friend's dad had a similar homeowners association nightmare at his primary home and his lake house. Took a few years, but he is now the president of both. Reduced homeowners association fees, did away with most fines, hired kids from the neighborhood to do landscaping instead of an overpriced contractor. Everyone's happy, and the teenagers that live there make a small fortune for taking care of their neighborhood. Reply by original poster. That's the most glorious thing ever. Sounds like he and I would be friends. Comment by user. You are amazing. I haven't had a story that had me open-mouthed like that for a long time. Reply by original poster. Thank you so much. Comment by user. You are a refined man of honor, sir. An example for all of us. Reply by original poster. Thank you. Comment by user. I just got a violation letter for a car parked in front. Ish of my house on the street around 10 a.m. and the car wasn't even ours. Plus, there's only a no parking on street between midnight to 6 a.m. Homeowners associations are out of control. Reply by original poster. Parking is a zoo in our neighborhood. #1 complaint among homeowners. But we cannot do anything, nor would I want to. That's an issue that would really piss people off if we fined for it. Most cities actually ban homeowners associations from fining for parking, so I am surprised to hear that yours can. Comment by user. LOL. I live in an homeowners association. While I've never had problems with them because I think everybody here knows I'm the nicest asshole you'll ever meet. In other words, I'm damn nice, but don't push me. So, while I don't go out of my way to break rules, I don't deal with bullshit either. I think I may take a page out of your book soon. Too many junior high fights around here about nonsense. Reply by original poster. Do it. While I regret some of my tactics, it's been the most rewarding thing ever. Removing rules and helping people as best I can has been amazing. Plus, I get to ensure that my dues don't get spent poorly, which is a plus. Comment by user. This seems like almost on a sociopathic level, but you used your powers for good. Clapping hands, medium dark skin tone. Did you actually enjoy being on the board outside of your intentions to get everyone off? Reply by original poster. I absolutely do love being on the board. While I do somewhat regret the next door thing, I knew I could never get the president off the board unless his 2 mindless votes were gone. Listening to the treasurer and director was nauseating since they repeated the president verbatim. I actually now interact with community members over next door, and it's helped a lot. We have had community events, fixed up the common areas that our funds are supposed to keep up, and we keep our management company in check. The transparency has been awesome. We are now also the cheapest homeowners association in the town by over $200 less than the next one. I have met so many cool people and really love my community. Comment by user. LOL awesome. I did similar years ago, but it was a 3-person board and me and my wife just stepped in because nobody else would. Seriously considered just disbanding, but we did have a few good reasons to have it, like the genius who paved their entire backyard with plywood and put a basketball hoop on the outside of the second-story deck _ of a townhouse _ Reply by original poster. I am so glad that someone else understands some of minutiae that a board deals with. Good for you and your wife. Comment by user. You should repeal that foreclosure rule. The homeowners association shouldn't have that much power. Reply by original poster. Actually, I wanted to. It is actually a power given by the state that all associations get by default, and can only be used in extreme circumstances. Actually, with the cap of $400 in fines, no one will ever meet the threshold for the homeowners association to foreclose on them again, so I guess it was a roundabout way of doing it. Comment by user. I was researching something else and stumbled upon this. It was a fantastic read, and props to you for taking control of your community with the help of your community. This post was from about a year ago. How has the board life been? How has the community been? Reply by original poster. Things are going super well. Board meetings go really fast and we have 87% satisfaction with the board. I am honestly just happy that I could help my neighbors. I am planning to step down next year though, and do something else. Comment by user. This is the greatest story involving an homeowners association that I've ever heard. Excellent job. I wish I had your intestinal fortitude. Reply by original poster. Thank you. It was probably one of the most terrifying things I have ever done, LOL. Getting rid of the president literally felt like a discussion in Among Us trying to convince everyone that she was the imposter. It was long. Please leave your story in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to get new update. Thank you.